Me.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Joseph.
I'm Joseph, a student at University for Development Studies, UDS,
Okay.
in Ghana. Yeah, and
Yes.
I'm currently heading into my CTA of PharmD education.
Okay.
So I wanted to know, because we've not started our clinical rotations yet, and I'm already looking at how to, apply and find myself doing research in cancer-related areas. As you said earlier, we shouldn't actually um, streamline our applications to just be about what we want, but
Yes.
also find what we want in other areas. So that was something I really liked about what you said. But is it possible? I mean, with my current situation where I do not have my official transcript, am I eligible to use my unofficial transcript? Statement of result wouldn't be accepted. So is there a way, I can use my unofficial transcript? And also the professors who are also going to read my code emails, are they going to actually know that even if I tell them I'm now entering CK and I want to actually secure a position for fall 2027, is it something that will fall on the good side of their ears? I wanted to really know that. Yes, please.
All right. Good question. Hopefully, I'm going to try and recall the question. See the first question I was trying to ask is, can you use an official transcript for application, right? The first question.
Yeah, the unofficial transcript.
Yes. And the second question is that will being open about your education level be vulnerable and go against you in your application processes?
Yes, please.
Okay. So let's start the first one. You can absolutely use your unofficial transcript for application. You're welcome to use that. Many schools would really ask for the official transcript once they have an admission in part of the, and then they'll ask you, hey, can you send over your official transcript? Many schools wouldn't deny the application because it's an official transcript. Um, they would review it at least till you get an offer, and then they'll ask for the official transcript. Uh, Two is that many schools in the US don't directly necessarily understand this education system in Ghana. Okay. They may not understand what fifth year is in Ghana relative to what third year is in the US, right? Um, so it's again, they might not understand. Let's depends on the context that you're facing and say, hey, I have one more year to graduate, right? And that's in the fall of I think it's better to say specifically, I'm going to I'm graduating in the May in spring in May 2027, and I want to grad and I want to start my pursuit in the fall 2027. That they can understand, that they can relate with. I've had professors reach out to me, committees reach out to me and ask me, hey, is what does I have a student who's applying to my program and is from KNUST and he has a GPA of 70. What does that mean? Right? Um, Legon has kind of a pretty standard education GPA system too, 4.0. So those schools that don't have those, some of them do transition, some other, but again, not every professor have the privilege to understand what the system of Ghana's education system is. Um, so don't let those things necessarily be a hindrance. You have to find a way to sell it in a way that people can understand, right? If I send my final year of my grad of my training, it's easy to understand and say I'm my fifth or sixth year. Like of what? What does that mean compared to a US where it's 4 years or 6 years? So it's hard to put timelines and interpretation understanding to that. And these people don't spend all their time reviewing application, do other things. So whatever makes their life easy for them is what they will go for. So that doesn't look bad at application at all. Um, you wanted to do cancer research, right? I think for for research programs, clinical years don't matter. I'm sorry to say this. Um, Unless you want to use that for something that is really important. So if you're applying to kind of a cancer program, most cancer labs interested in doing more molecular assays. They want to do PCR, they want to do sequencing, they want to do stuff. They don't necessarily care about, and that's the most people in medical school and pharmacy school and those clinical programs in Ghana get caught up in this trap, which, so to say, people that are in sciences don't get caught up in is that they spend all their focus on clinical research. Oh, we're doing qualitative research, we're doing 30% of our patients is this and that, 8% of them have this and that. That doesn't necessarily apply to whether you can pipette effectively and you can screen the data sets, right? And so many people think in Ghana, it's like it can become, it sounds nice, but really you want to build basic research skills. And those becomes marketable when most of the labs when they're hiring. So if it's a program within a basic science department, right? Not in the medical school. Um, so I rather focus on building those wet lab skills and maybe computational biology skills. And if you're thinking about doing clinical research, think about ways that it can be discovery led than just a population studies where we are doing 20%, 30%. Um, and I've had the chance to work with and rewrite their resumes or rewrite their thesis in a way that fits an application and makes you competitive. So you have to first of all look at what kind of program you're if you're going to go public health, those clinical epidemiology data becomes really useful. But if you're not going to a cancer research program, which is like mostly basic research and discovery led and drug discovery and stuff like that, you want to be able to do a drug screen, right? And do some bioactive blood screen and or try some bioactive compounds and say, okay, do they have effect on killing mice or something? That is more marketable for somebody who wants to go into research programs than spending their lives pursuing clinical data. Um, it also depends on the context,
Oh,
but based on what you've told me, I think that if you want to go into a cancer research program, I'll focus on building relevant wet lab and dry lab skills than clinical skills.
okay. So, please, sorry, Miss Jessica. I just had to ask my final question, if I'm permitted.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. So, currently in UDS, we run the C. Our CGPA is out of 5. So, I mean, with that, I've been told by my mentor I have to go for WAS evaluation, and
Yes.
yes, so that will be done. But then again, I wanted to know with what's it called, the US system. I mean, with currently, I've done 5 years of PharmD education, and it's just left with the CTA, which is the clinical track. That is why I wanted to actually more focus more on the fact that I've done coursework, like theoretical work, 5 years of theoretical work, and then there's the last year, which is more clinical. So I wanted to
Yes.
like focus more on like building my CV around this area. Then again, my mentor is telling me to be accepted into an accelerated PhD program. There's the high need for me to write the GRE, which I'm currently preparing for. But I don't know if that is entirely valid as it should be. I don't know if the GRE is entirely valid before you are accepted into an accelerated PhD program. And then the last question is um all right. I think the last question is um with the we're making yourself competitive. I mean, in this application pool, let's say with our dean, for instance, like I mean, I was working with a lecturer who actually we wrote a grant to Nature. It just ended 14th of July, just this month, and we haven't heard back from them. In my CV, am I also to indicate that I've written, let's say like, and plus other systematic review works in pharmacology and or the plus my project thesis? Am I to actually indicate that these papers have been submitted for review? I mean, for publishing. Am I to indicate, and also for the grant especially, am I to indicate that I've written a grant of that nature, or it will be irrelevant if we do not even win it after all? Also, are opinion letters, our opinion articles actually needed? I mean, do they count in a competitive profile, please?
This is a really lot of questions. Let's start with, I'm going to try and unpack it again one by one. So the first question about the GPA thing, we spoke about already. Translations are important. You have to translate it. And so again, that's why I said before, right? If you have a school in mind, right, and someone from your school have already been in that school, that tells you that people from your school can end up here, right? And so that tells you that all the things that you're probably concerned about your program and stuff has been dealt with just because someone has done it already. Okay. So I think many people from UDS have gone to school abroad, so that's not a big deal. Um, with your issues with grants and applying for adding to your resume, obviously, I think the big part of that process is not you winning the grant, it's been having the experience to write a grant, right? Having the experience to come up with the hypotheses and having the experience to justify to a panel that this idea is worth pursuing and needs to be funded. I think that's a really important skill set, right? So you're putting your CV not because you have a grant, but because you have a skill set that allows you to write competitive grants. Okay. Um, so you have a category on CV and said grants, and you said grants in progress or grants submitted to whatever agency you sent it to. So if it's a grant, you're a grant, are you a PI or you're a co-PI on the grants? If you're a co-PI on the grants, then you list the PI and say co-PI on the grants titled elucidating bioactive chemicals from this and that for this and that kind of disease. And then you write submitted to National Health, Institute of Health, 2026, right? In review or in progress. Um, those take up 1 or 2 lines on resume, CV, and it's fine. For publications, you can actually get to grad school without any publication. So again, those, but if you have it, your competitive is good. Um, when I say publication on a resume, people want to know what role did you play on that? What role did you play on that publication? What role did you play? Did you actively participate in writing the research proposal? Are you just a co-author on the paper? Are you a first author? Are you a last author? Are you a mid author? Those are more important than, again, whatever the paper is, right? And whatever field it is, and what kind of journal do you send it to? Um, so again, it all depends on how you frame all of these things and how you think about these. And just saying that if you list 20 papers as co-authors, um, that sometimes also looks bad, right? It's like you work on 20%, you're not the first on any of them, right? What role are you doing, right? So sometimes you lose, sometimes it can go both ways. You have to just understand at the end of the day, what do I want someone to interpret when they sees my CV, right? And you want to highlight all the relevant skill sets for somebody who wants to do research, right? Um, did I miss the last question? Maybe I missed the last question, but
What's
yeah,
about opinion articles?
yes, part of publications, right?
Okay.
Again, it's like at the end of the day, and this also comes up a lot when you're talking to a scientist abroad, right? They want to know 4 things. What did you observe? Did you have a hypothesis? How did you test a hypothesis? What did you conclude? What the significance? Um, and even if you're writing your SOP or statement of purpose and thinking about research, how do I sell my research portion of my SOP? Always have a hypothesis, right? Always have an observation, which is your results. Always have a conclusion. The scientific process doesn't change. That's how an American scientist interprets science. In Ghana, we spend all the time writing preambles and we forget the meat of the thing, right? And I remember one time one of my friends was having a sense of SOP and I write, I worked at Noguchi for 17 years and I contributed to the surveillance study of blah, blah, blah. And we did surveillance on this and that. Neglected tropical diseases is a problem in Africa. And we published 10 papers of that. And when I read, I'm like, what was the central question? What was the question? What was the hypothesis? What were you looking for? What skill sets did you use to solve the problem? Right? And what did you find? So you end up spending a whole paragraph of your SOP without saying the real scientific question that you were going after, how you solved it, and what you found. Right. So again, it's and those things end up becoming because of the way our system is. And again, always I tell people when you're applying for something, even when you go for interviews, think like you're on the other side because the person going to read and evaluate is on the other side of the panel. He's not on the Ghana side, right? So it's a lot of things that we all have to learn. Jessica, I think you also had to you learn stuff when you came
Yes.
to grad school. You had to learn, okay, when I'm trying to communicate my science, I need to start with my hypotheses, I need to start my observation, I need to leave the question, stuff like that, which so you end up becoming very, very prominent in your writing, and you so opinions are also good. But again, what's the strong opinion? What your opinion do you have that is really shifting the field of really challenging theories, and what is the scientific background for that? Those can be highlighted. Just as saying that don't pursue papers. I'm just saying, really, if you want to go to grad school, you can get to grad school without any paper at all. You can be fine without it. But if you if you have it, it's good. But again, if you have it, it's how you're gonna sell it and how you're gonna say this is important. I didn't come to grad school with any paper. I had no paper when I came to grad school. But I had some skills that were attractive. So it really doesn't matter if you have papers or not, if you have papers or not. I think it's extra work. I think what you should do, as Joseph, if I may advise you, is that find some laboratory and then build some skills. PCR, um, do some screenings, do some active and 1 or 2 line of research, and that'll be useful for you for your career path because you're a pharmacy already, so you have that clinical advantage anyway. So build some core wet labs, bench skills.
Yeah, he also asked about if he should take the GRE
Good
for the
question.
accelerated PhD.
Yeah, I don't know what accelerated PhD means actually, unless you want to explain that to me. I don't know what that means. Is this saying that someone straight from undergrad to PhD, or it means that PhD done in 3 years, or PhD done in 4 years, or PhD done in 2 years? I don't know what it means. I was going to ask you to clarify what it means by accelerated
Oh,
PhD.
I was straight from what's it called? Undergrad to PhD. I heard in
Good.
the US system there's something like that.
Yeah, so it's just regular grad school. Okay, so again, they say you see how it's become very difficult to interpret some of these things, and that's how people end up struggling on committees when they're trying to review people application from different part of the world. Um, so there's okay, is this something done in 4 years or 3 years? What acceleration means? So yeah, so you can definitely go to grad school without a GRE. And so again, you look for the schools. Some schools don't require GRE, some schools do, right? So it all depends on the school you're going to go for. If your school requires a GRE, you should. GRE costs you 185 if unless the prices have changed. And someone will say, okay, instead of applying to take the GRE, which I'm not sure, I can apply to 3 other schools with the same capital, right? Or I'm going to apply for GRE and then hopefully get into another school like Harvard or Stanford. But again, this is like case by case. It's not one cap fits all. So find a school, find the school's requirement. If it could require a GRE, why not? If the school doesn't require GRE, you don't need to write it. So you have to decide.
He asked about the WES evaluation. Is it compulsory, or because he said a UDS GPA is out of 5, but I didn't do the WES though.
Yes, because Legon is out of 4, right? So Legon is pretty standard. You just out of 5. And this I said that if it's a school that your senior has been there, right, it tells that it's possible. I know people from KNUST and UGS, many people do the translation because they have a kind of weird grading system. Because Jessica, you can attest to that. How would you interpret somebody who has 4.6 over 5 and somebody who has 3.6 over 5? You know, how do you scale it? How do you scale those things? So you probably have to go through West because the US is really standard on 4.0. So people can easily interpret 4.0. And even with 4.0, I'll tell you. So I applied for a grant. Jessica, I didn't tell you the story, but maybe I'll tell you today. So I applied for a grant and my transcript was being evaluated. And this was in right in the pandemic. And when as my undergrad, I got an E in organic chemistry. And then when I went to the lady, she's like, Emmanuel, you don't have to take it again. It's just an elective. You don't need it. You just need to pass 1 to graduate. And I forgot that I had it. That was the only E I probably had on my transcript the whole time. And so I forgot that existed on my transcript. And some sneaky reviewer picked it up and says, hey, you have an E. What does that mean? You know? But the point I'm trying to say is that if someone gets a C, or let's say a B, which is 3.0 in the US, the white man doesn't understand that your 3.0 is at a grade of 70, and it took you blood and stone to get that 3.0 and it took you multiple assessments and multiple things to get that. And because the average when you teach a class in the US, the average student is getting A minus, which is like 95 or 96 or 94 and a half or 93 over 100. So why do you get 70? 70 is like a C in the US system, right? So, or a C or a D is like a reset at that point. And so they're wondering how you got an E, that you should be a really horrible student to fall that low. And so it becomes very difficult, right? That's actually I'm just trying to avoid such situations. Because here the average GPA going to grad school will be 3.9 or 3.7 or 3.8. And the person didn't do anything extra. That's like a 3.3 in Ghana. But the white man doesn't understand that it takes that much work and it takes blood and sweat to get a 3.3 or a 3.1 or a 3.2. Because it's just different systems, right? And that's why they look at the patient more holistically and they ask questions and then they ask, hey, Emmanuel, someone applying from Ghana, he has a 3.0. Is that a good student? And then you write and say, hey, it's a good student. I wish I could show you and the classical example. Jessica, can I share my screen? I may not be able to share my screen. I wish I could show you. I might be able to share my screen. Can copy and paste. Maybe I can copy and paste. Let's see. Hopefully I can be able to share this. Maybe I can paste. I'm not sure I can paste it. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna go off my phone and I'm gonna come back here in a bit. Okay. Anyway, I'll share with you guys later because I can't do this on my iPad. But that's the point. You have to be able to compare apples to apples. So, yeah, 4.0 is pretty standard. 5.0 is not standard. Apples for apples, that might be misleading. There's a question in the chat that says, how can I make my application stand out in terms of writing style for SOP and other essays? Can you guys still hear me though? Just double checking. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, beautiful. How can you make applications? Who asked that question? I think it's Isaac Walali. In terms of writing, we spoke about a bit right now, right? You don't want to do any emotional writing. And so when I woke up, I saw my mom who was falling out of the bed, and I always had a passion to be able to help her stand again. And so when I was 6 years old, I found myself being curious in science. And today I really want to make that dream come to pass. You don't want that kind of writing. You don't want that kind of writing at this level. You want to be very targeted, very objective, less emotional control. You talk about why you are the greatest candidate. How can I explain why my GRE scores are low? So you want to come up with really essential theme, right? And this is where it gets hard if you're writing to these umbrella programs, because then you don't have a particular research project in mind. A particular group might be interested in studying NTDs or interested in studying cancer. And now this is goodwill. I'll tell you this out of goodwill. The white man or the American professor doesn't want to stand in the way of your success. Okay. So you can be a great candidate if your interest doesn't align with what this lab is doing. Few occasions will they try and reroute you. They'll be like, oh, and I had that same, like I remember one of the interviews I interviewed, he told me that, Emmanuel, I think you're really passionate about this. microbiome stuff. And I really think that you'll make a good fit in a different lab. You know, so you have they're not going to reroute you. They're going to say, okay, you're not a fit. We don't want you're still going to make your career work. So you have to find a way to craft a really kind of research interest that spans across a variety of things. You're interested in studying, maybe generically interested in studying how cells communicate, right? And that can be cell signal, that can be cell biochemistry, it can be cell bio, it can be a lot of cell things underlining that. It can even be drug-driven, inspired cell communication. So that those kind of things can give you a safe landing. You also want to highlight what skill sets you bring to the research, to the program. What does the program stand to benefit if they hire you? You know, uh, what do you benefit from the program if they also hire you? So you have to really enumerate all of those. I think Jessica mentioned all of that in the last meeting, so you can go back and watch those videos. But just want to minimize any emotional blackmail and then be objective. Uh, speak like a scientist. Put your value up front. Keep it within a page, 10.5 narrow margin. You don't want like 2 pages or 3 pages long essays. Keep all the most important details on the first page as much as you can. Have really captivating stories. If you're using ChatGPT, just be aware some GPT phrasings are very generic and everybody will catch you right away. So please, but you can use ChatGPT definitely to help yourself refine your SOPs and then deal with all those grammatical errors. But some phrases in ChatGPT are always repetitive. So people can draw that out and that can work or may not work for you, depends on the context. But definitely use the ChatGPT and use all the resources you can to craft something compelling, but not something that's emotional blackmail. Okay, good. You're welcome, Delasi. Isaac Oklali. Any more questions, Jessica? And your panel, your people.
Okay, I have a question. I don't know if you can hear me.
Randolph?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so my question is that I have a first degree in land economy from KNUST, and I also completed a master's in real estate. But I'm currently doing a master's in public administration at the University of Wyoming here in the US.
Okay.
And I'm considering doing a PhD after school, that is fall of 2027. So my question is, I have publications, I've worked with my professors in my public administration department, but these publications are actually in the field of public administration, more like AI in public administrations and stuff like that. But I really want to go back to the field of urban studies and real estate. So I'm considering that with these publications, is it giving me an advantage if I try adding it to my CV, looking at the fact that it's not directly in the field of urban studies or real estate that I want to pursue further studies in? Yes, and I also want to know that does that give me a good combination as a solid foundation for the programs I'm considering? Thank you.
Right. Great question. I think you answered the question in the second part of your question. Interdisciplinary candidates are sometimes more appealing than candidates that have maintained the same track, right? So to answer a question, it all depends on how you sell it, for lack of a better word, right? Do you understand what I mean? It's how you're going to try and leverage. That's what to think about. Like, how do I really market this skill set? Because at the end of the day, you did learn something from those publications, right? Even if you didn't learn the subject matter. You learn how to organize the paper. You learn how to write a manuscript. You know how to analyze data. Give an example right now before I pass it on. So I was in MERC 2024 to give a seminar. And while I was there, it was funny because I started to give a talk as a microbiologist. A minute, guys. Give me a minute. Okay, yes, I'm back. Okay, so while I was there, I had to give a talk, right? But all the 6 or 7 people that went before me, none of them gave a biology, none of them gave a biology talk. Everything was chemistry, everything was data science. And so I had already my slides were already prepared for the seminar. Nothing was going to change in that minute. But I had to recognize that my audience were different. Okay. And by doing so, I had to rewire how I was going to deliver the talk. Things that were not important to a chemistry audience didn't fit emphasis in my talk. What I'm trying to say is that if you're trying to rework your achievements or accomplishments from a different field into a different field, it's not worth emphasizing things that are not necessarily useful. So if you did learn public administration and you did AI, and it's really for administrative purposes, and you want to still sell your skill sets in data science, how can you find 2 or 3 things that can connect your current publication experience into this new field, highlighting cross-transferable or cross-disciplinary skill sets without making it sound irrelevant or redundant. Does that make sense? Randolph?
Yeah.
Yes. So you have to put in the work to think about what is suitable for this audience. But you don't also want to say that because it's not directed to public health, to real estate, you don't think it's relevant. It's relevant. It depends on how you see it from, right? It's relevant. Depends on how you see it. And that's really and that's ability to do that. It's also on that skill set to be able to synthesize stuff from nothing, right? It's also on that skill set that you probably didn't know was a line on your SOP, right? But the people that are able to market transdisciplinary expertise tend to be more attractive candidates than people that are locked up in the same career path. I'm just saying.
Okay, sure. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Any more questions, guys? Let's keep this interactive. I think Jessica will
Okay,
process
sir.
the time now.
Okay, so please, I want more clarification on this. So in case you are to email a supervisor or maybe a professor before getting admission, and you try the code emails and there are no response, can you still continue to apply to the school?
Yes, you can. And I give an example with my own story, and I try to limit things in my story because again, these are different case by case. So I did apply. I wrote emails out, and even like I'm going to say, yeah. So I wrote an email out to University of Albany before when I was trying to reapply, and then I wrote, and I was tired. I was writing. And sometimes you will get the address wrong and you put somebody's name because you just copied and paste and you're making mistakes and stuff like that. But remember, I did send emails to 3 people. You gotta be very vigilant and when you're doing that, be alert. And then one lady, she's called Wendy. She didn't respond to my email. So I sent emails to Wendy and Alex, let's just say 2 different professors in the same program. And then Wendy didn't respond to my email. Alex didn't respond to my email either. Right. But it was funny because Wendy and Alex met. And then Wendy's like, hey, I got an email from a student from Ghana, blah, blah, interested in this and that and that. I thought he would be a good fit for a lab. Did you look at the email? And it's like, oh, I see, man, I didn't get to read it. How about, okay, then he went to read it and he's like, oh, let's have a Zoom meeting. Can we talk? So you just don't know, you know what I mean? Just don't know what may happen. And I found this out later, right? So you just don't know what happens when people go back and they don't read your emails, but somebody mentions and say, hey, I got this email from this student. Did you get something similar? I want to push an email to you. Maybe it's a good for a lab. And then I was like, oh, I already had the email from me. I never looked at it. And then that made him go and look at it and respond. People are just busy. They might not look at it, they might not respond. So you have to send a lot. You don't get discouraged. That's the point. You gotta send a lot out. You weigh options to send a lot out. One or two say, we have a program, apply for the program and move on. Every time someone says apply, there's green lights. You should. If you don't get responses, they might just be busy, they might just not look at it, they might just not. Lately, professors that don't have money or their labs are full, sometimes don't even bother to read and reply cold emails. So it's nothing to do with you being your email being bad or you being a bad candidate that just don't have interest in you. You don't control that, right? So you also can continue to send out a lot more emails, send out a lot more cold emails. Again, avoid emotional emails. Be very straight to the point. Avoid long emails because people don't have them to read. Titles have to be very, very direct. Page opportunity in your lab, advisor requests. It has to be very, very direct, not any winding introduction. Hey, I am blah, blah, blah. I come from this institution. I'm my fifth or sixth year, and I'm trying to do this, and I'm questioning programs. I said, hey, I'm applying to this program in your lab, blah, 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 in this academic year. I like your research in this and that and that. My experience cut across this and that and that and that. Do you want to talk? Should I apply? Blah, 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 full stop. Very, very concise emails. People like to read it. When they see the emails pop up on your phone, and then they're like, notification again, enough, I'm not going to look at it. They probably wouldn't, right? And sometimes they'll look at it when they are free. And even for postdoc searches, Jessica, let's be honest, people don't respond to you and it's fine. And it's okay, it doesn't mean that you're a bad candidate. I think it's just people have a lot of things going on in their age. Your job is to make it easy for them. So any email that doesn't resonate well, they might not just read it. It doesn't mean that you're a bad candidate. So you can still apply to those schools, but just send out more emails.
Okay. So please, thank you for the answer. And with another one, you have been at the US for a while. Sometimes you do hear that when you're at that place, you can study and work and get money to maybe to fund yourself all that way. So in case you are privileged to get a partial funding, how is your advice on that? Whether to come or to look for a full funding?
You can work in school. There are a lot of restrictions. You're working in school is tied to the institution. You can only work on campus. You can work off campus until maybe it's at a internship or something. So it's not that easy, straightforward. Again, case by case, people come in and they really succeed, and then the life happens, and then they break through. Some people to come and then life forces them to do other things, and some get married, and then they get their green card, and then they can continue to juggle between both. Just keep your motivation and intentions clear. Why you're coming to the US. Are you coming here to get a better life for yourself? You're coming here to really to start off getting a better education for yourself, and then everything that happens afterwards is it's a reward for your hard work, right? Just keep your motivations clear. Avoid things that is going to make situations difficult for you. Nobody knows how things will go. And now it's very hard to give advice on immigration and these things you're having conversation right now. It's very hard, Jessica. It's a very hard question because now it's very hard to give advice on immigration stuff because things are really changing with the current administration. But definitely, I'll say if you have funding that is guaranteed, take it. if you have family in the US that can support. And nowadays, it's even hard to justify to the interviewer why you can succeed if with partial funding. It's hard to justify. Many PhDs, you get full funding. I would say if you want to consider something to have a high option of getting funding, it should be a PhD. Master's is a bit difficult because people don't want to invest in short-term projects, don't want to invest in long-term projects. So PhDs become more attractive. People to put in their money there. So shoot for PhDs, and if you're successful, you probably get full funded. And that helps your interview, that helps everything, makes things less complicated. If you come, there's a lot of just a lot of restrictions that people don't talk about, but there's a lot of visa restrictions, the things that you can do, things that you can do. And you don't want that to be one of the, and again, I'm saying that it's hard because people have succeeded both ways, right? It's hard to say one cup fits all. But if you have options, secure full funded program. You want to add something, Jessica? We can't hear Jessica. We can't hear you.
Please, I dropped the question. Yeah, hello.
Yes, I see your question. Can I call them if they don't reply? I wouldn't call professors at this point. I wouldn't. I'll just send another person an email. There's a ton of them. I'll just send another person an email and then just make my options more. You can call graduate school to find out if you don't hear back from application, but professors, most of them would talk via emails and schedule a Zoom call or something. Please, with the current 30 days OPT permit, how do international students go about it? Again, so Joseph, this is where we are at right now. It's hard to give any immigration advice. And again, we would say we are not attorneys, so we can't speak to that. In our experience, these things are changing. The best way to go about it is secure a job before you graduate, take your education into your own hands, make your own network, make your connections, get a position before you graduate. Some people just extend their semester by a semester long to make sure that they have something before they graduate. You don't just want to graduate and then have no options and then come out to 30. So you have to just figure a way out. Human beings are meant to adapt. Many people will still be fine. It's just people just don't know how things will end up, you know what I mean? But that's not to discourage you. I think it's still a lot of opportunities here. Even if you just get a PhD and then decide to go anywhere in the world, you'll still be valuable than any other person at all. But there's still a lot of options here. So I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, regarding the immigration, so there's this woman attorney, she's AB legal counsel. She does these Zoom meetings every Wednesday. I've been posting the link in my WhatsApp channel as
okay, good.
So
good.
yes, I'll share my WhatsApp channel here so that you guys can join, and then every Wednesday I'll post the Zoom link and then you can ask these kind of immigration questions to her. Yeah.
Sounds better, yeah. Sounds better.
Hello, boss.
Hi.
So
Jessica, how many more minutes do we have?
We are actually supposed to be wrapping up by
yes.
now.
So we'll wrap up with one or two questions, and then definitely, I think you would have other people on the panel in the next month, and then you guys will have most of the things. So maybe you can ask a question, and then I'll say one or two more things, and then we can. How about that? Sounds good?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity. So please, with man, it may be a bit contrary to your background because I'm from the background of electrical engineering. So I want to ask that I want to switch from electrical to applied mathematics. And how feasible is that?
Yes, so we've said this on this call, I think a lot of times. It's a question of how feasible is that. It's a question of how do you position yourself to make someone say is that, hey, okay, you're an engineer, but I still think you succeed in math. It's really It's how you position yourself. And I think Randolph asked similar question, and a couple other people asked similar questions. You have to say, okay, what skill sets are fundamentally governing electrical engineering? It's all math, right? All the basic, all the stuff that you do in engineering is all governed by math principles. Um, it's all governed by maybe MATLAB coding or Java. So you have a lot of overlap that you are not aware of. And what you have to do is really figure out how can I integrate myself to make, because again, and this I might deviate a little bit, you have to have a required number of credits, right? For some transitions. And this is mostly for people that uh, do some particular programs and want to go to a different level. From you do in electrical engineering and want to go to math. I think you would have from fundamental math credits in your engineering program. If you meet a minimum amount of credits it takes to convert to do a graduate education in math, you already meet half of the cutoff points, right? Um, Mostly happening with people in Legon, like my sister example, she did psychology and philosophy, and she ended up doing a PhD in psychology because she had enough credits to justify her for a PhD in psychology, right? From psychology, even though it's a double major. So you have to find out what the really background credit requirements are. Because some schools say, okay, even though you have interest and you have overlapping, you didn't meet the required credits to go to graduate education in that program. So take the credit somewhere else, or you can take when you come to school. There's all of people are moved from into physics, people are moved from. So you have to just find a way to make yourself demonstrate overlap. Maybe just in MATLAB coding, right? It's all what many mathematicians do stuff in coding, and you have to do stuff in MATLAB. So you have to just find where all those nodes, interacting nodes are. And then you use that to pull down your application and say, okay, I can really explain that I can do math because I have all this foundation knowledge in engineering. Even though it's not directly connecting wires and cables, it's really everything governed the principle of electrical engineering the same as math, right? So it's your job to really find that those connecting nodes and then make sure that you align the application to depict that you succeed. And that's all they want. They want people that can come in and succeed. They don't people that will come in and struggle. So if you can demonstrate to them that you can come in and you have potential to succeed, you're good. Does that help?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you for the
Good,
enlightening.
good.
Thank you so much for your wonderful questions. I've put my links in the chat. You can follow all these links for more updates about the monthly sessions. And thank you so much, Dr.
Sure.
Dr. Adade, for these hours with us.
Yeah, we went overboard, but it's good.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, I think everybody here cares about the education and those succeed. Just really go for it. Don't settle. Go for it. You have Jessica. Talk to her. She can help you. But everything, just find a way to make sure that you are selling yourself, making yourself appealing. Think about people want to put their monies where they'll get a return on their investment. Essentially, that's what grad school is about. People put money in you, and then they want to get something at the end of the day, and then you get it's a mutual benefit. You get a degree, and then they get their papers, they get their promotion. So it's mutual. So they will go for someone that can trust that will succeed. So show them you can succeed, and you'll be fine. Sounds good.
Yes, sounds good.
Hello.
Okay.
Please, Jessica, please, can you send the link one more time?
Okay, sure. Okay, sounds good, Dr. Edem. So thank you all for joining. You're welcome to take your leave now, Doctor. If I can speak with him.
Yes, you can stay and then answer any questions. Perfect. Nice to meet you guys. David, I see you on the line, and I see Evans. Those are people I invited personally.
Oh,
So
nice. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
yeah. Redeemer fell off some time minutes ago. So thank you guys for
Okay.
coming. I hope you guys have something useful out of this.
Thank you.
All right.
Happy anniversary. Happy
Thank
wedding
you. All right. Thank you.
anniversary. Bye. Okay, I hope you've all seen the link. So, yeah, those are the links, and that should be all. Thank you so much for joining.